Welcome to another installment of the Conversations Across Generations with the African American Lectionary Young Ministers Corner. And today we're happy to welcome the Reverend Dr. Jasmin Scurlark, the conference preacher, the morning preacher for the Hampton Ministers Conference today, and the pastor of the Shiloh Baptist Church in New York, Pennsylvania. And we're so excited to be able to sit at her feet and glean so much wisdom, particularly because she's known as one of our greatest preachers in all of Christendom. And so we're just so happy to have you with us today. We're also joined by the Reverend Jeremy Ballo, pastor of the Western Avenue Baptist Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we look forward to a very productive and organic conversation as she gives us a way forward to do better at what we try to do as young ministers, preachers, and Christian educators. Welcome, Dr.
Thank
Scurlark.
you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, we're so happy that you were able to sit with us today.
No problem.
Well, since we're at the Hampton Ministers Conference, and this is about preaching, and you are a preacher, can you give us a picture or a window into your preparation methods?
Okay. And, of course, you know, I'm the daughter of Charles Edward Booth, and so my preparation method has to do primarily with his style, because he mentored me in terms of that. When I was not a pastor, I didn't do a whole lot of series preaching. But now that I'm pastoring, most of my preaching is more based on series because I'm trying to grow the church that I'm pastoring at that time. In terms of evangelists, so when I'm traveling, like some of you are who may not be pastoring, it takes a different approach because you may only have one installment or one opportunity to say what you need to say. And so in series, I'm really focusing on the overall theme and the purpose of the church and where they are and where I want to move them. In terms of being an evangelist that is invited to preach for one night, the message is more of an encouragement and inspiration. And that comes from my own personal devotion, my own prayer time, what I feel like God is working in my life. Because in the words of Charles Edward Booth, preaching is truth through your personality and your experience. So the more you have the personality and the experience, it helps me in terms of that.
I think one of the biggest questions that all preachers or young ministers sort of ask or even drives their preaching out, what is that one thing, or I would say a couple of experiences that you can say that truly drives your preaching? When you get up every time, what is that thing that is truly just driving you forward? Because there's something.
Well, I would say number one, it is the calling.
Mm-hmm.
The calling drives the preaching. That you have to know that you know that you know that you know that you are called into ministry, but also into the ministry of proclamation and preaching. Once you know that, I think that's the thing that pushes you forward and propels you, whether they say amen or not, whether they agree with the sermon or whatever. It is a calling. And I think the second thing is it's a passion. You're passionate about it. Pathos, that you just have believed that this is something that you were born to do. I'm reading a book entitled Dying to Preach. And it focuses on two things. Of course, the preacher has to die in order for preaching to come forward. But the other thing is the intensity of the passion, that if you're a preacher, two things. You love to preach and you love to hear preaching. You know what I'm saying? That if they ever give you the mic in your sleep, you're going to preach wherever you are. So I think that's what drives it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned dying to preach. Are there any books in particular that have helped in your theological ministerial formation that you'd like to share with us?
Of course, I know y'all know the certain sound of the trumpet.
Certainly.
And I said, for women is the certain sound of the, not the trumpet, but the saxophone. You guys blow the trumpet, we play the saxophone, as women. Saxophone brings a sweeter and a smoother thing. So that's a book. For women, young women, there's no way that you can be called to ministry, but in particular the preaching ministry, and you don't read Daughters of Thunder. Okay, Daughters of Thunder. That's what I read, and my ministry's patterned after Daughter of Thunder. But that helps with a sense of history to see all the women that are daughters of thunder, and I feel like I'm standing on their shoulder and their legacy and stuff like that. Pastor Mackenzie's book, Not Without a Struggle, is an absolutely, wonderful book to read. And of course, those that they tell you in seminary to read in terms of preparation. But those are the books that have helped tremendously in my own personal journey.
Do you have any advice in terms of preparation and commitment to study for some of our sisters and brothers who, because of various circumstances in life, just don't have the opportunity to go to seminary?
Yeah. Oh, well, thank God they made it easy now that you can at least do some things online, But I think preaching is more caught than it is taught. And that means that if you stick around preaching and preachers, if it's in you, eventually it's going to come out of you. And that's why Hampton is so important, and E.K. Bailey's conferences, those preaching places where you may not be able to go to a 4-year college or for a master's or doctoral, but there's so many conferences that are out there that the concentration is on preaching that you can at least glean from them. And of course, reading. The preacher has to consistently be reading, whether it's about preaching, and of course, you guys who are preachers, you listen to preachers on 2 levels. You listen to be encouraged by the preaching, but you're also listening to see how that preacher has developed his preaching or her preaching.
I think one of the things that we always sort of discuss when we've talked about this in this series several times is sort of the challenge with young preachers and just preachers in general, and they're called developing and discovering their own voice. And sort of like, when does that happen? How does that happen? And how do you become comfortable in your own skin, in your own voice? I wonder if you could speak to us about sort of that time, series of moments that you say, I finally became Jasmin Scurlark.
Right. And I would say that, of course, it's a journey, because every young preacher, and I was the same, wanted to imitate or be a clone of other preachers. I think I first started off as being Rita Twiggs. I had my one because that's my mother in the ministry. And then I went through a phase, I was Dr. Booth. If you heard me in my earlier stage, I had all Michael Sahi suits. I'm telling you, Michael Sahi. You're not a preacher without a Michael Sahi.
You're right about that.
I mean, I imitated Dr. Booth to the point that when I was preaching, I was loosing a tie that I didn't even have on. And I'm in the middle of my hoop and I'm loose. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have a tie. But he did that, okay? And then I wanted to be Pastor Mackenzie, and then I wanted to be Jessica Ingram. I wanted to be Corded Copeland. I wanted to be Millicent Hunter. And then I found out that I worked so hard in trying to be all of them, nobody can be me, authentically me. And one time I had preached between Bishop Pastor Mackenzie and Jessica Ingram, and I was a combination of both of them. And that night I literally flunked, and I heard God saying, I cannot use you if you're not authentically you.
Wow.
And there's room in the kingdom for a jazzy jazz. I don't need another Juanita Bynum. I don't need another Millicent Hunter. I don't need another Pastor Mackenzie. Just be jazz. And that revelation liberated me, and I'm comfortable with being jazz, with my style. I'll take my shoes off. I'm not going to stay in the pocket. I will dance around. And Pastor Jamal Bryan helped me with that, because when he first introduced me years ago, he did that description of what jazz means. Highs and lows. If you know jazz, they have a second beat, a second rhythm. So I said, that's just jazz.
Wow.
And so I've come into that, and for the last 10 years I've been walking in that. It doesn't mean I don't honor those who went before me, but I'm not trying to imitate them anymore.
Gotcha. And maybe if I could ask, if you don't mind, a follow-up to that, would you say that there was a moment, I guess maybe sort of a click either in your pastoral ministry or your preaching ministry where you said, I finally have it. I finally feel comfortable in my skin. I finally sort of see where I fit.
Oh yeah, and of course, you know, you wrestle back and forth because again, even taking the Hampton experience and the Hampton moment, you have 4 or 5 different preachers with different personality, with different style of preaching, and my good friend Dr. Lance Watson said, "Just do you, just do you." And Hampton, I think, rewards you or recognizes you when you just do you. That's what Cynthia James was saying that yesterday. She was a little bit nervous and things, but somebody said, just be Cynthia James, and that's all we can be. And I think it's a journey more internally than it is externally. But I also think that age has a part to play with it. When I turned 40, I cut my hair off. And I had long hair, and I just cut it at 40. And 40, I was like, take it or leave it. I want my hair short. And that was my coming out party. That was my statement that, hey, this is what I'm going to carry myself and look like. And I cannot remember the last time I wore Michael Sahi suits. Not that I have anything against Michael. I'm just not Michael Sahi.
Right.
I'm not, clothing that. And that was the revelation that I'm comfortable in my skin.
Wow. Well, I can definitely say we're grateful that you have become Jazzy Jazz. Because of course, we love Dr. Ingram, Bishop McKenzie, and of course, Dr. Booth. But we're so happy that you are now one of our models for preaching. And when I think about that, you've definitely captured the heart of black churches and the Christian community of this nation, because you have a very, very healthy itinerary. And so I'm wondering, as a pastor, how do you negotiate being the evangelist and doing the work of the pastor with excellence?
Right, yeah, that's always a struggle. I have a great church that understand that I function in a twofold ministry of pastor and evangelist. But also, I spoke to Pastor John Jenkins a couple of days ago before I came here, and he raised the question. He said, how are you going to manage the Hampton experience after seeing that you have a hectic schedule? And but I think the way I do it is, in terms of invitations, is that first of all, I accept invitation because first I'm praying about it. Second, it has to be something that I'm passionate about, because I get to preach every Sunday. That's enough for me, preaching every Sunday. But third, I have created staff around me. Of course, I have some basic rules, is that I'm never out of my pulpit more than 4 Sundays a year. Because you can't go and grow. That's what Keith Troy told me. You can't go and grow. So you have to decide, do you want to go or do you want to grow? And you can't grow it from a distance. So I'm gone 4 Sundays out of the year. And those 4 Sundays are given to pastors, friends, my father in the ministry, people I've connected with. And then my Bible study is on a Monday night. So I'm really out on Monday nights, because if I'm doing revival, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that schedule works for me, but I also have some balance in my life in terms of while I go, I'm also staying. My friend may think that, but I find some balance.
I think that's...
Well, Pastor, as you know, black churches have been predominantly populated by faithful women, but the black church has not always been favorable of women exercising certain forms of ministry, particularly the preaching and the pastoral ministries.
Right.
How do you negotiate some of that tension that's still embedded in our culture? And do you think there will be a time when it's sort of ubiquitously accepted that women can pastor and they do it better than men most of the time?
Well, it's going to happen because the seminaries are full of more women. So,
Yes.
like it or not, it's going to happen. By any means necessary. But I don't think we as women. I think we should challenge those stereotypes. But I don't think it is necessary our battle to fight. What I always tell, what is interesting to me in my pastorate and in my ministry is that my biggest haters have been women than men.
Wow.
Oh yeah. My biggest opposition has been more women than men. I have had more Mordecais who pushed me forward as an Esther than I've had Naomi pushing me as a Ruth.
Wow.
Yeah, my biggest challenge, women look at you and the size of the earrings, the shoes, the outfit. They all about the style, where brothers is all about the substance before we get to the style. Brother wants to know that you can stimulate him intellectually before you can stimulate him emotionally. And that's why if you look at my preaching, I'm squeezing the text because I have to get him to be engaged mentally before I get him to holler, amen. Not saying that all women, are not, intellectual, but it happens like that. What I would say to women who are in that kind of environment is that the scripture said your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. And when you do get the opportunity to preach, stand up, speak the truth, shout, and sit down. That's what I tell them. Stand up, speak the truth, shout, and sit down. And Pastor Noel Jones said it best, that if you are in the back of the line, don't try to negotiate your way to the front. But eventually God will turn it around, and everybody who's ahead of you, now they will be behind you. And that's what I've been a witness to.
Well, last question. What have been some of your biggest triumphs, challenges, and mistakes in pastoral ministry?
Oh, in pastoral ministry, our biggest triumph is in terms of course, seeing people's life change, seeing that God can use me to make a difference in people's lives through the preaching and teaching. I think in terms of challenge, of course, that's what anything is moving people along. And I would say this old man told me years ago that your name may be on the marquee, but it doesn't mean your name is in their heart. And just because your name is on the marquee, it takes some time. See, when you get installed, they put your name on the marquee. And the young preacher assumes that because your name is on the marquee, that your name is in their heart. But it takes some time to get your name over the marquee and into their heart. And as young preachers, one of the faults or the struggles of young preachers is patience. Especially when you've been anointed in Jesse's house, and you're the next David, and Saul is sitting in your seat. Somebody's sitting in your seat that's not as gifted as you, is not as anointed as you, or can exegese like you, and yet God calls you to sit in the second chariot when you know you've been anointed for the first chariot.
Wow.
And two people has helped me with this, Dr. Rita Twiggs, who is my spiritual mother. And Dr. Twiggs told me that you are not ready for the first seat until you can sit in the second seat and serve the person who's occupying the seat you want.
Wow.
You know how I got to Hampton? I served my pastor. I served, and as young preachers, come on. You know, just got licensed, got 10 armor bearers. You already got, you got a form you want us to fill out before you can accept the invitation.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And the doors that has opened is because I've had an opportunity to serve the generation before me. The generation before you. Listen, you're going to get there. I remember I looked at Bishop Pastor McKenzie, and I'm looking at all of them like, wow, oh my gosh, when am I going to get to, you know, you're nipping at the bit, you already got your sermon on your index card, you to give remarks or something like that, you're gonna make it known that the preacher, there's a preacher in the house. But David served Saul. David served Saul because eventually Saul will move on. It's just a matter of time. So I think my downfall is patience in pastoring. They say it takes 5 to 7 years to turn a traditional Baptist church in the right direction. I said turn it, not move it. Just let them think about move up, turn them. They ain't moving yet. 5 to 7 years. And y'all see me now, and I've been pastoring for 10 years. I've been licensed 20 years ago. I didn't just get here overnight. It's a 30-year journey. A 30-year journey. So you take your time and get ready and improve your skill and you know, serve your pastor, the person who's ahead of you. And one day, I'm telling you, you'll look up and you'll be there and they'll be cheering you on. And it comes so fast, you don't even know it. It's here.
Thank you greatly, Dr. Scurlark, for sitting with us.
You're welcome.
And we know that this will touch many, many lives and help to better many, many ministries. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, listen, if you Twitter, and I get in my Twitter, listen, at Rev Jazz. I'd love for you to be a part of my followers. At Rev Jazz. If you Twitter me, I promise I'll Twitter back at you.
Thank you so much.
Bless you. God bless you. God bless you.